it's so hard to get Vegas out of your body after being there for a few days.
That's why I only could be there one day.
Yeah, my whole freaking company's sick. You know?
Yeah, that's just what they told you.
No, I mean they actually sound terrible on the phone.
All right.
Like
This is from
coughing up a
this is
storm.
from Betsy Kabaker, who's been on the show before.
Yeah.
Me after back-to-back weed conferences from Vegas to Santa Rosa to sleeping through my 8 a.m. Monday fitness.
Oh my God! Oh, look at that. Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah, the people that I didn't do that run, but I had people that work here that went straight to Emerald Cup and.
You know, if I go to Emerald Cup, I'll see a whole bunch of friends. I'll get way too high, and I won't do anything. Like MJ Biz, at least it's like business people, you know.
Right.
Like
well,
Emerald Cup, it's like
Emerald Cup, and it's a lot of like I don't know, but it's just a lot of people flying from out of state too to try to find cannabis.
fair enough.
You know,
Yeah.
it's not just about the legal cannabis industry. It's about you know getting your pack so you can go back east and sell your quality outdoor California cannabis.
Yeah.
So we're rolling. Just for both of you, last one was great. You guys have great chemistry. Try to be a little tighter. We don't need to go into all the details as much about you and everything now.
Yeah, we
This is
know
mainly
who
for
you are.
Brandon.
I like to write.
Look, the backstories are great, but you already went into a lot of them.
Yeah, we don't
So
need to do that.
stay pretty focused on the topics.
Let's
I
try
think-
to do 30 minutes.
Yeah, stay a little tighter.
Okay.
Stay
Last
focused.
time it was an hour, I think.
It was
It
an hour and
was.
20.
It was
So,
a
It
lot.
was long.
So
Look,
But it got really philosophical at the end.
It
it
did.
did, it did.
Um,
But I
it's
think there's
okay.
a lot of good topics that you guys just experienced, right?
Right.
So anyways, you're rolling, so whenever you want
I'm
to start.
pulling up the list.
Cool.
Yeah,
I can't
man.
believe Christmas is in 8 days.
Yeah.
What happened this year? Decade's almost over. Honestly, 2020, the future.
The future.
We're in the distant future right now. Yeah,
All right. You ready to do this?
let's do it.
Mr. Belsky,
Brandon,
thanks for joining us again, man.
Hey,
I have
always
to
a pleasure.
say, how many of these we've done now, Eric? 6? 5?
7.
This is number 7? Of all the guests we've had on IC News, not the original show, right? I'm not gassing you up that much yet, but of the IC News programs, you're my favorite guest so far. And it's not close. And I think that's because you touch so many different companies all day, every day. So everybody knows you founded FlowerHire, executive search, executive recruiting, cannabis industry. Very hot time for you, both hiring and firing. But welcome, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Just shaking off MJ Biz last week.
Yes, we both were in MJ Biz. How many days did you did the whole thing?
We were there. I was there 4 days, which
That is a lot of Vegas.
yeah. Any time in Vegas, you're better suited being in and out.
I can only do one night, and I spent that night with you. That sounds worse than it is, or better than it was actually. But we had some good times.
Yeah.
We had some good times. We've become fast friends, which
Absolutely.
I appreciate a lot. I've been told that I should be choppy today, and we should keep it tight. So I'm going to do my
Got a lot
best.
to cover.
All right, MJ Biz reactions. You went there with specific goals in mind, which are
to catch up with existing friends and customers and clients, to find new ones, and just check out what's happening in the industry and the overall vibe.
and how well did it satisfy those goals, those needs?
I think better than expected. You know, just based on what's been in the news and everything. You know, about valuations and lack of capital and layoffs. And, you know, I was expecting there could be a somber mood, but
It wasn't.
It wasn't at all.
And I wonder if that means everybody's just spending the last little bit of their budget there, and they're like,
Well, they probably locked it in like 6-7 months ago,
right? Totally. Yeah.
But it was, last year was about like lavish penthouse parties with brands celebrating, capital
Themselves.
raised, and there maybe was a little bit of that, but and last year there was a lot of people that said they were Canadian investors walking around like puffing their chest out, and it was
A lot less of that.
less of that this year for sure.
So was it productive for you?
It was incredibly productive. I took the entire FlowerHire team, and it was whenever you're taking the whole team somewhere and you're not on the desk for 3 days, you got to be careful. But the whole industry was there and our clients were there, so we weren't going to be able to do anything anyway. And we divided and conquered, and we're still kind of sifting through the aftermath right now of what exactly who we met. But it's definitely worth being there.
I went for one night. I'm glad I went. This is my 5th MJ Biz, I think. And look, I think it's a healthy maturation of the industry that not everybody from every side of the industry was there. And I think what that means is we've become big enough that like there's a lot of conferences, and it's okay if you weren't in Vegas this year, I think. I know a lot of people that are LA based, that are California based, they're like, look, we just didn't make the push this year, you know? And look, you guys deal with companies all over the country, so it makes a difference for you. But if you're a California cannabis company, like, you really gotta be careful about what your goals are and what you're doing there. Like you said, I love how you started. It was like we had these specific reasons for going, and it was very productive, right?
Well, I get the impression that there were people there from most companies, but it wasn't everybody. It was the people that absolutely had to go.
Yeah, the sales guys, the marketing
or they're like talking to their investors, or you know, people were still in town, but it wasn't like we're going to take the whole team there and spend $175,000 on a penthouse and fly anyone out there. And
which again, I think is a healthy maturation, because that's how. Well, I'll give you a good example. My old company, On Fleet, who has a large number of cannabis customers, but also has customers in all kinds of delivery verticals. They sent the sales team. You know, they got a table, they sent the sales team. It wasn't like, and they go to shit all over the place. Right. They go to retail world, they go to delivery, you know, it's just another conference for them. And I think that's rad. Yeah. It's not like, oh my God, weed's here. But the scale of it should not be understated. I mean, it is massive.
Well, it is the biggest cannabis trade show that there is. Yeah. And just that, you know, there's different parts to MJ Biz. One is the trade show, which I didn't spend a ton of time on. I was there for about 2.5 hours and had some very specific people to meet with. But the size and scope of the trade show was enormous. You filled up the entire South Hall of the convention center. There was over 1,000 booths.
I walked in for the first time and I was like, oh, okay, this isn't that crazy. And then that was just the check-in lobby.
Right. I mean, it was absolutely, it was massive. And there was companies that spent a ton of money on their display. I mean, you had full demos of processing equipment and, you know, tons of things hanging from the rafters. You know, it was, the trade show itself, I guess, was
How many
was
times
legitimate.
have you been? How many years have you been?
This is the third year.
Even in those 3 years.
Oh, I mean, it's double the size it was last year.
It's double last year.
Just from a footprint standpoint.
Yeah. What, somebody said there's 100,000 people, something like that, dedicated for the conference.
Yeah,
which sounded like a huge number to me, and there was a ton of people. But then an Uber driver told me that there was a cowboy convention in town.
Yeah.
240,000 cowboys.
Vegas mixing cowboys and cannabis. You know, only Las Vegas. Well done,
dude. One time I was in a hotel, not going to either conference, and they had accidentally booked an AA convention and a wine convention in the same hotel. Oh man, it was so hilarious.
That is awful.
It was really funny.
But I mean, I think that the trade show is part of it, but the idea is that you know, certain, and for this time, more curated representatives from different companies come to town. Like, it brings the industry to town, right? And so obviously people go to, like, if I need to buy a new machine or packaging or whatever, you go to the trade show. But you know, the other thing is it just brings the industry together. And I think even though, yes, people didn't need an excuse to go and some people didn't go, and that's good, it still brings the industry together more than any event that I think I've been to this year. And I've also been very selective of which ones I go to, because there's just too many. I agree with you.
And you got people you can send. You don't have to go.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure it's not as productive if you don't go, but still.
Yeah, well, no, my team does a good job, and you know, at the end of the day, there, you know, things people are met there that I should know, and then they'll do a good enough job of selling what we do and selling our service and setting up a follow-up.
Well, we've talked about this before, but the structure of your business lends itself to, they have to be productive, right? So it's all good. You know? I'm talking about sales guys. Anyway, that's kind of a good lead in to what I want to talk about next, which is, one of the reasons that people go to MJ Biz is to get this sort of national exposure to cannabis. We're so inundated over and over and over again with California. And look, California's a huge country. It's a huge cannabis market. It is. It's a huge country. This is California. I don't, when I go places, I don't tell people I'm American. I say I'm Californian.
Right.
Because it's different.
From the country of California.
I don't know anybody from Oklahoma, you know?
No. But apparently they have 2,000 dispensaries that are going to be open by the end of next year.
Okay, but as you know, opening a dispensary means nothing.
No.
Opening a restaurant means nothing. Like, are you gonna make it?
Right.
Retail's hard.
That's hard.
Hard, right? So everybody reads the headlines, everybody knows, Michigan, Oklahoma, Florida, medical stuff. Like, when you look at the national, how important is it relative to California? I mean, you got to be a little biased at least.
Right, well, I mean, I think California is and will continue to always be the largest legal marketplace for cannabis in the country, no matter what happens in other states.
But in the world, maybe?
I mean, I don't know. I saw something that said like there's a city in India that's the #1 cannabis consuming city in the world already. So I don't know.
Well, illegal.
Well, I think California's always been thought of as like the brands that are going to shape the national and global cannabis industry are going to emerge in California, and only time will tell if that's actually.
But that's
the case.
true of all the other industries, of entertainment, of technology. What else? Like,
Right.
we set all the trends.
Right.
So
It's true.
yeah.
It's,
I mean, that sounds arrogant, I know, but if you just look through history, like, all the brands are here,
well, not like the staunchy old guard CPG brands, the Procter and Gamble's and the.
But the brands that they buy.
Yes, the ones that they're being developed 100%.
Look,
Innovation.
This is like
innovation.
like talking about Altria and Kronos and stuff, but at the very top, it's a very small group, a very small room of people that have all the money, right? So the question is not, where do the Procter and Gambles hang out? Yeah, sure, I don't know, they're fucking in Montauk or something, but they're trying to come to Venice Beach and find the next whatever, and that's us, right?
It's you. No, I think that the products that cater to like the millennial and the post-millennial apocalypse of whatever Gen Z or whatever is behind the millennials, like those products are being innovated, created in California in a big way, and obviously the big companies need to add those to their portfolio in order to stay relevant.
So maybe I should ask the question differently. You talk to a lot of companies, you work with a lot of brands. If you put your head in that headspace, you can spend $10 million next year on marketing in California, or you can roll your hand at the dice in Michigan or Nevada or wherever else, right? What do?
I don't know. I think California, and we're kind of seeing this now, has just been overly saturated. There's been a lot of money raised specifically to develop brands in California, too much so based on the size of the legal market right now. And so I might actually try my hands in other states right now where it's more greenfield and where no one has a strong presence than put money into California when there's brands failing and pretty consistently at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, it depends who you are. I think if you're a little guy, you're probably right. Higgs, Oliver Higgins, who's been on this show.
Good product.
Great product. He's doing that. Because he's like, look, everybody's throwing crazy money into California. And I'm going to go to Nevada. I'm going to go to Colorado. And I'm going to be the coolest brand out there.
Right.
It's a good move, I think. I mean, we'll see how it turns out. Right. But he's looking for money, too, if anybody's interested. But all right, let's move on to the next topic. Are you ready?
Sure.
So there's this narrative right now, and I guess it's more than a narrative. It was all over MJ Biz. The industry is in shambles in a lot of ways. And I can't say it's a surprise for me as a student of industries, not outside of just cannabis. But the question for you is, as a recruiting agency, as executive search, is anybody hiring still?
Yeah, well, the short answer is yes, there are. And it all depends on who you're talking to. And I think at the end of the day, being part of the connective tissue of the industry, I think there is a have and a have-nots right now, and the have-nots are unfortunately, a lot of them are going out of business right now, but the haves may not be making the capital that they could be making from a profit standpoint if all regulations normalize, but they're still moving forward, and they still have money, right? So, companies are...
Break down the percentage there. What percentage of the industry do you think, I like the way you put it, the haves and the have-nots, what percentage do you think that breaks down to?
I think you're looking at like 10% have and the rest have not at the moment.
Okay.
If you're looking at sheer numbers.
So it's like the rest of the world.
Yeah. If you're looking at the brands that were like at Hall of Flowers as an example of which ones they're sufficiently capitalized and are going to be around in 12 months and have a growth story to talk about, it's not much.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I've said on this show and many other times that there's this like fight for the soul of the cannabis industry, right? Between these two sides. But the more and more I see it, it feels like one side is using this narrative as a crutch because they're not fill in the blank. They're not good enough, they didn't raise enough money, they're not this, they're not that, which in business are just all excuses, right? Am I wrong?
I mean, I think that, you know, of any industry that's ever emerged, you know, there's always challenges, and cannabis is plenty of challenges, and that blank could be they don't know how to raise capital and haven't been able to do so because it's unfamiliar to them. The blank could be the regulations in this state are set up in a way that we can't even run a profitable business,
But some people are.
Or the blank could be we're running a profitable business, but retailers aren't even paying their bills. So
Yes.
on paper, the money we have, we don't have. We
Yes.
can't pay our suppliers or pay our staff because of that, and so we're forced to raise money even though we shouldn't have to, right? There's a lot of that, and I think that.
But see, look, those three elements you just listed, they're relevant, but they're relevant like on Monday morning at the team meeting. They're not relevant in the scope of like cannabis and the future. And I'll tell you why, because in every other industry, there's 5 or 10% of people that do well, and those industries have their own challenges. You don't think distributing alcohol is hard? Like, Jesus, you know? But they figured it out, and the best ones did it well and got rich. And I guess I just don't see it that differently, and it's easy to say, cannabis is hard.
Right. I mean, you're right. I mean, I also think that like there's a lot of excitement around legalization. People that have been, you know, living the cannabis lifestyle for a long time, and
There you go. That's the answer.
And it's just not enough to be part of the lifestyle to actually make it in the legal market
Right.
at all. You know,
And so,
Yeah.
what a lot of people have done, cushy punch we talked about last time. Now we got this article that came about Lowell's. Well, you read the article more closely than I did. What did it say exactly?
It said something like, you know, the California Department of Agriculture is, you know, suing Lowell or investigating Lowell to destroy some of their products because some of it was not sourced from the legal market and therefore unfair competitive advantage. But it was more of a highlight. I didn't read the actual article.
Got it.
I read the summary.
Well, we probably should read the article next time, but we're here now. And what it sounds like to me is they took some legal tested weed, mixed in some not tested weed, and made whatever products came out of that beautiful mix. Now, if we're talking about a consumer safety perspective, it's not really an issue because I know the weed that's grown in California, and I refuse to believe that Lowell's is growing shitty weed because some of it's being tested and working well, right? But the key is they weren't able to make it pencil above the line, right? Wherever in the supply chain was too expensive for them, they fell through, right? They couldn't make it work with those numbers. And so they've done what Cushy Punch has done, what I'm sure a lot of others have come, I'm sure a lot more of these reports are gonna come out of companies that, you know, did what they needed to do to stay alive. And you can say that it's their fault, it's really a systemic problem, it's a tax and overregulation problem, but this is gonna keep happening. One has to think this is a strong indicator for why the Lowell's Cafe is not the Lowell's Cafe anymore. They've obviously got a lot of moving things going on over there. I'm not going to ask you to comment too deeply. I know that they work with you sometimes, so I don't want to put you in an awkward position.
Well, I think at the end of the day, like you know, no one knows what the real truth is in either, you know, and this
knows.
industry has a lot of
bullshit.
A lot of bullshit, but a lot of haves and have-nots, and people that are have-nots that come after the ones that have the haves, and so you don't know what the truth really is. But I think, generally speaking, there are likely that you know, Cushy Punch is not the only one that's doing the same thing.
Right.
You know, whether it's egregious or not, right? So
As the police drive below us currently.
right. Well, they don't know what we're doing in there. So we're good.
So, look, this is a classic moral debate. Do I steal bread to feed my family? And what do you say? Do you sell illegal weed to feed your family, to keep it alive?
I mean, I think at the end of the day, like, people in the industry do what they have to do to survive.
As
right?
they've been doing for
a long time. And so there's always, like, the people that have been used to living that way anyway, of course. The people that approach this industry and are trying to play by the rules and are only in it because it's now legal, you know, I think there's a huge moral dilemma with those folks, you know, and I think from what I could tell, a lot of them, you know, are not trying to operate that way, and maybe to their detriment, they can't actually deliver the story they say they can. I mean,
so along those lines, what can we do about this? I mean, we live in a democracy. California is more like a socialist republic, but if we're talking about the US, we live in a democracy. So we're supposed to have the ability to change these things, to say, we believe cannabis should be cheaper for the end recipient, which is going to save this industry. So one of the big linchpins here, obviously, is federal legalization. Decriminalization would be a big step as well. Banking would be a big step. Whatever else Mitch McConnell wants to peel off the bottom of his desk would be great. But what's going to happen in the next year or 18 months? Does it matter who's elected president? And maybe we can go through some of them. I mean, Biden doesn't seem to like weed, right?
no.
So it seems like if Biden gets elected, nothing's happening. No changes. That's the way I see it. I think, do you know how Bloomberg feels about weed?
Well, Bloomberg, I think he recently announced that he's for legalization, which
Okay.
was against what he had said before, but he said it's basically my thinking on the plan has evolved.
His money must have given him a little amnesia.
Well, it's possible he also realized he's running the Democratic Party. The Democrats overwhelmingly are in favor of cannabis legalization.
Yes.
And it could be just it's just a ploy for votes. I mean, let's be serious. Who knows what these guys are actually going to do once elected? You know, it's a whole different story.
Totally. So Bloomberg at least says he's for it. Full legalization or decriminalization?
I think
Everything.
Both, yeah.
Sweet. So Trumpito has really never said anything about weed.
No.
Part of me thinks he may use it as like a last gasp to try to get people like you and I to vote for him.
I've heard that.
I don't know that. I mean, I'm not sure he's even smart enough to execute that, but who knows? Maybe we'll get one of those big, bold Sharpie signatures about weed. That'd be cool. Honestly, if Trump, as terrible as Trumpito is, if his final days are legalizing cannabis in the US, how are you going to feel about Trump?
I mean, I wouldn't say I'd be healed, because I wouldn't by the trauma of the 4 years, but I think I'd feel better about it all.
Yeah.
Like there was something.
And if you
positive
look in
about it.
history, like, look, he's a shithead. He says stupid things. He's maybe the worst businessman in the history of America. But all of those things are, this dude's really doing business out here. He's really getting phone calls. I'm talking about you.
Turn the phone off.
But cop just drove by again. They're looking for you.
No, you.
Yeah, I know.
You.
I know, it's me. Okay, so 2020. Who else? Somebody really wants to talk to you. Who else even has a shot? Mayor Pete. I'm sure he's pro weed.
Well, he doesn't have.
He doesn't have a chance. Who else has a real chance?
I mean, Elizabeth Warren.
Bernie? They don't have a real shot though. Bernie doesn't have a real chance, does he? And Lizzie, does Lizzie Pocahontas, she have a shot?
Pocahontas. You sound like Trump, man.
Well, but she's an idiot.
You kids, well, she's.
I know that's a Trump nickname. I think that's the best part about Trump. I love his nickname.
She appeals. I mean, she's got some ideas that are good for the masses, and I don't know if she has a shot though.
She doesn't have a shot.
But we said that about Trump, so you never know.
Yeah,
but I think
here's the
she's
deal with
definitely
Trump's
on the
a
pro
fucking
side.
chameleon, and he tells everybody what they want to hear. Lizzie is a die-hard socialist, and one thing is clear if you look through the history of American politics: We're not interested in socialism.
No, like she'll, yeah, and then some of her, what she said, she's almost unelectable how far at the end of the spectrum she is.
I also think this is an unfortunate statement, but I'm not sure that the U.S. is ready to elect a woman.
Huh?
I know that's deep talk, but
it's never happened
that's
before.
big talk, but I don't know. And it's not going to be Elizabeth Warren, I can tell you that. Maybe it'll be AOC in like 20 years. Anyway, what other topics are we supposed to talk about? Let's see. Women-focused brands, I don't want to talk about. Let's talk about the taxes. So specifically, we talked about this black market issue, but there is new taxes coming in California in 2020. What are they raising? Another 4%, something like that? This is insanity, man. We're already not surviving in this industry. And it starts to appear as if the powers that be don't want cannabis to work in California. Because if anybody is looking at this, the czar, what's her name? What's her name?
Lori Ajax.
Lori Ajax.
Yeah.
If she's looking at this from a 30,000 foot perspective, and I know she's not queen, but still, you cannot say that what the state has done is in promotion of cannabis. It's just not. Come on. They're just milking it and milking it and milking it. What they don't realize is that they're taking an increasingly bigger piece of an increasingly shrinking pie. They just are. Do you want this much of a $20 billion market, or do you want this much of a $5 billion market? You tell me, Lori Ajax, and if you want to come on this show and talk about it, let's talk about economics and business and how this works. And don't tell me that it's hard because it's weed. This is California. This is France. We're in goddamn France here. Like, we can do whatever. Anyway, just stop ranting now. But I think I know how you feel. Let me ask a more poignant question. What's this going to mean for your customers, for your clients that you work for every day and need money to pay you to place people? Raising the taxes yet again. Are you hearing about this? Are you feeling this pain yet?
Yeah, well, it's almost like it's just this era of it almost being incredulous. So I think is it out of touch? Are they trying to raise more money to step up enforcement on the illicit markets, or is there a little bit more enforcement happening? Or no one can really fathom why. I think part of it too is the industry does lack a unified voice. You know, you saw the response to the Vapegate crisis, and some brands actually got together and went to Sacramento and tried to explain, that vaping wasn't the enemy and it's not going anywhere, so make the problem worse. And I think had some success in getting that message across. But I think, generally speaking, there are some lobbying groups, NCIA and things of that nature, but California specifically doesn't have a good enough, cohesion amongst operators in the industry to promote similar messaging and clearly to get that across in terms of what the legal industry needs to survive, right? Or you have politicians that are just out of touch and rubber stamping, right? And who makes those decisions, right?
Who's the woman that the head of the banking in California or whatever? We saw her speak at the thing.
Yeah.
Can't remember her name. Yeah. Very well spoken. She was recently elected to this position, which basically
Fiona Ma.
Fiona Ma. I don't know exactly what her title is, but it's like Chief Finance Cannabis State something. I don't know, like that. She deals with the money in cannabis, California. And she stood up in front of a group of decision makers in cannabis and said, if you need a bank account, call me. And producer Eric called her, followed up, sent her multiple emails. Guess what? She doesn't have any bank accounts. So when that kind of stuff happens, it just makes me feel dirty. It just makes me feel like, what are we actually doing here? Because I'm a capitalist at heart. That's my number one priority. I'm not a touchy-feely, kind of Californian. I'm about money. And they're fucking up the money for everybody. I mean, they're just doing a bad job. There's no other way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, they are doing a bad job. Look at the taxes. I mean, at the end of the day, they raised taxes a little bit. They didn't raise it a ton, but they're already higher than, they are in other states, and they're already, ridiculous, right? But they have the opportunity to create a state-sanctioned bank to support this industry if they're really serious about it,
and they don't.
And they haven't done it. It's been introduced.
We're going on 2 years. It's been legal.
Yeah, and brands still can't get paid from retailers. This is all cash.
Joke. It's
ridiculous.
Joke.
I mean, I think that biggest challenges in the industry right now around that are like, like how much does MedMen as the top retailer in the state owe brands? Probably, from a payable standpoint, got to owe $40-50 million, right? Obviously, they've got another line of credit and they're still around and hopefully going to be around. But I think just getting money to move through the system, like it's the state isn't helping because those taxes are owed.
Yep.
Despite
what percentage of our taxes we collect last year in cannabis? Like 12% or something ridiculously low. I don't know what it is. Somebody quote me, but I just, it's crazy. It's so crazy that I'm almost sure that somewhere in some small boardroom, they're deciding, we don't really need to have more weed everywhere. There's weed already everywhere, man, right? Like everybody wants this. And I think they're nervous. Like, is the whole California just gonna be one big nug? Are we just gonna be walking down the street? Because what happens is there's oversupply issues too. Then we got people dumping weed in rivers in Canada and like fixing the price like it's maple syrup. Like it's crazy, man. And I think California, they're a little nervous about it. Like, they don't. It's crazy what's going on right now. Anyway, maybe the alcohol lobby is lobbying. I'm not sure.
You hear about alcohol lobby or the pharmaceutical lobby. I mean,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, no matter what happens on the federal side, like pharma industry is going to have its say in how the final regs are written. It's definitely not going anywhere, but they're going to make it very hard for small producers to survive on a national scale.
On a national scale, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, look, nationally, there are 100 things that need to be figured out, right? But in California, we have an opportunity to really do it the right way. And you've already seen in certain municipalities where they really fucked it up. Like Oakland really fucked it up. Yeah. And LA is in the process of fucking it up, Like, how can you have a regulated market in which you let illegal actors thrive? Come on. Like, I'm talking to you, Weed Maps,
Yeah.
Like,
well, I mean, they're all saying they're acquiescing. It's just slow.
No, but doesn't that pace?
LA just raided 10, illegal, or said that they raided 10 illegal shops and shut them down, last week. And Weed Map's supposed to, by now is supposed to have all over its deliveries have to be licensed, right?
I guess I just wonder, and there's no right answer to this question. How much of that is lip service?
Right.
We just don't know. We just don't know, and that's kind of the thing that bothers me a little bit. All right, we got any other?
In California, you're turning a freighter. You're turning a giant cannabis community and industry that's lived under the shadows, right? So it's bumpy.
Yeah.
I do see, California's going to struggle, over the next 3 to 6 months to see more things going on in business and all that. But I do think, Great Lakes, East Coast, these emerging cannabis markets, there's actually, from a regulatory framework, a path to profitability, and so I think you'll see more capital being raised for those states probably before California again in mass, and there'll be a real balance in power as California kind of lumbers through and figures it all out.
Yep. Yeah. And they will figure it out. We'll figure it out. We'll get there. That's how industries work. They self-correct at some point.
When you're going through it, it takes 10 plus years. When you're going through it, it's different.
Yeah, it takes a long time. Yeah. I want to end the show. This was really fun, by the way, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing it again. At your beautiful office. I just want to appreciate where we are, too. Yeah. We used to do this show in a basement in San Francisco that somebody let us have. And It's just a cool moment for us to be here with you. Look at this view, man. Life is good.
We're lucky to have it.
Yeah, really. I don't use the word blessed because I don't believe in God, but we're blessed.
We're blessed.
That's just the truth.
Blessed this moment to be sitting here talking about this industry and trying to.
I want to end the show with just a little update because last time we talked a lot about Vapegate, and I got some messages where people were pretty concerned, as they should be. I mean, this is their livelihood. But I just pulled up a little bit of data because you asked a question about what happened to Vapegate, and so. According to the Center for Disease Control, CDC, there have been almost 2,300 confirmed cases of e-cigarette or vaping product use associated with lung injury, this EVALI. leading to 48 deaths. And most of them, they believe, came from the black market. So I just want to put things in perspective as we did before. We're talking about less than 50 people that have died from this. And as a result, sales of vapes and these brands have waned. I mean, 10, 20% in some reports.
Right.
Edible sales are up because people are worried about vaping. I would venture to say that flower sales went up a little bit too. I've certainly thought about like, maybe I should, I mean, as I have a vape in my hand at the moment, but like I should maybe vape less, you know, or like find an alternative, that kind of thing. How has it come down from your clients, from people you talk to? Are they recovering? Are they rebounding? Or is still heavy?
I think anything vaping related is still struggling big time, and I think that was also part of the industry with the most saturation of brands. You know, a couple months ago, I heard 800 actual vape brands, whether it was a cartridge or a all-in-one, right? And you see some companies that are more used to just having a terpy distillate pen going into like a live resin and trying to get that going, which tends to be more in you know, the consumer trends and viewed as safer, right? But I don't think vaping has recovered. I think the bleeding has stopped and it's kind of lumbering along. But I think it's unfortunately etched in the psyche of a lot of consumers. Like, is this really safe for me? Should I just be smoking flower? And
honestly,
for better or worse, you know?
This is such slander. I don't know who started this story, but at that time there were probably like 2 people that died from this, and they've completely disrupted an industry. I think that's culpable.
Right.
Like, I think that's so wrong.
Well, there's definitely a mass manipulation of popular opinion, orchestrated by people above my pay grade.
Yeah.
You know, to like carry that story and keep it going.
I mean, it's no different than some of these other things. Like, if you eat McDonald's all day, every day, am I supposed to believe that you were surprised that McDonald's is unhealthy for you? If you drink Patron tequila all day and then at night, you should be surprised that you don't feel good, or that you have liver disease, or if you smoke cigarettes, on and on and on, right? And so, yes, if you are getting more vape than oxygen, you're probably going to have a problem. But if you're an adult,
right,
and you use things in moderation, not even in great moderation, but just like not more.
Don't be the outlier.
Yes, don't be the outlier, right? Don't be the statistic that dies.
Right.
It's okay, I mean, the list goes on and on. Like, use your judgment, make good choices. We're not talking about kids. Don't market to kids. Kids can't have these products. End of story. But for adults, like, don't tell me that vaping's bad. I know vaping's bad, but it's not that bad. It's just not.
Well, I mean, it's the thing about it's technologies, and the technology didn't exist 10 years ago, and it was, maybe it wasn't marketed as such, but it could have been, and it was really perceived as being a lot safer, right? And so I think most people, based on common sense, would understand that breathing air is probably much safer than breathing a vape through a vape. But
do you want a celebratory vape while we're commenting? That's a Raw Garden Purple Punch. Purple Punch. Pretty nice. Pretty good. Dave, you're the man.
hey,
Thank you so much. It's been so fun.
Pleasure.
Thanks for paying attention, guys.
Before you sign off,
Yeah.
because you just kind of ended a little negative, I'd like you guys to do this is coming out, around Christmas time,
Okay,
holidays.
cool.
Do something positive you're looking forward to for 2020.
Okay.
Right.
It's December. Christmas is upon us. You have a beautiful family. 3 kids? 4 kids.
Yeah.
So don't say them because that's the obvious answer. But as you look into 2020, what are you most excited about?
Well, this industry's not going anywhere, and just there's something about being part of something where it feels like you're succeeding yet going out of business at the same time. It's just exciting, and it's just being at the ground floor of history and knowing that looking back at this and you know, as a gray-haired man, and you know, and that I was part of something that is never going to be done before. I'm excited to continue to experience it. At the end of the day, I'm excited to bring positivity to this industry every day and connect good people and try to build the stories that are going to last until tomorrow. I'm excited about coming into work every day and being part of this, you know. And again, it's going to be tough, and it's going to probably be really tough in California for at least the first part, if not half, if not all of next year for operators in the space, but it's not going anywhere, right? And the sun is still rising, and anyone that's been part of this industry in its legal form in any way is incredibly marketable to other places in this industry, and just helping them find their path, you know, as something I view as a calling, and I really enjoy, you know, putting folks in here that really embody the values of this industry and you know, want to see it succeed.
Very, very cool. Well said. I think I'm most excited about in the cannabis industry that shit's about to get real.
I think it's real already.
No, man. The economy hasn't even turned yet.
Right.
Wait until we're in this bootstrapped, terrible industry, and then the bottom of the economy falls out. You know how cheap everything's going to be? I'm going to come back in with a big pot of gold.
I mean,
This is called investing in cannabis, and so that's what I'm telling you. That's the game plan, folks. Save your cash.
right.
It's going to get real.
There's going to be. I mean, yeah, there will be a lot of you know, buying opportunities.
Sure are.
In that
What do you want to buy?
I don't know yet.
Lowell? I'm kidding. This was fun, man. Thanks again. Let's do it again
All
soon.
right. Sounds good.
That was great.
Dope.